Hey everyone, Dr. Boyd here. Welcome back to Parently. I encourage you to click the link below so we can be your labor coach. We can encourage you. We can get you through that process of labor and for you to successfully have a vaginal delivery that you're happy with. We want to help you get to the point where you're happy with your vaginal delivery. And we can do that. We've done this many, many times. So click the link below and we can be your coach. Now, today we're going to talk about abnormal labor. So let's define normal labor, and then anything that is not normal then would be defined as abnormal. Normal labor is the progression of cervical dilation. So that means the cervix goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, all the way to 10. And it does it over a certain period of time. All women that are pregnant have a closed cervix. If they've had a baby or 2 or 3, their cervix is 1 centimeter dilated. But to successfully have a vaginal delivery, you have to get to 10. No way you can deliver a vaginal delivery without getting to 10. And it's a progressive dilation. And again, it's over a certain period of time. If you've had babies in the past, whether it's 1 baby or 10 babies, you are going to deliver faster than somebody that's never had a vaginal delivery. So we call a woman that's never had a vaginal delivery a primip. A woman that's had vaginal deliveries in the past, they're called multips. So we're going to talk about these two women in separate categories. A primip is a woman that's never had a vaginal delivery. A multip is a woman that's had a vaginal delivery. A primip is going to take longer than a multip to deliver, but she's still going to progress in a normal fashion. So if she comes in labor at 2 or 3 centimeters dilated, she should be contracting every 2 to 3 minutes, and they should be regular contractions. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. That doesn't have to be necessarily 2 minutes, but it should not go beyond 4 minutes between contractions. If it goes beyond 4 minutes between contractions, your healthcare provider may talk to you about Pitocin. IV Pitocin is given through your IV. It's the same medication that you secrete from a certain area in your brain called your pituitary gland. And so the Pitocin can make your contractions closer together and therefore push you in the right manner toward vaginal delivery. So women that do not have adequate contraction pattern, let me say that again, women that do not have adequate contraction pattern in a timely fashion should plan on having Pitocin started during their labor process. So that's abnormal labor number 1, inadequate contraction pattern. And it applies both to primips and to multips. What we're going to talk about next is abnormal labor patterns as it relates to fetal descent. Now, I mentioned that your cervix has to dilate. It has to dilate 1 to 2 to 3 all the way to 10. Your baby also should be descending in your pelvis. So when we check your cervix, we're hopefully feeling the fetal vertex, which is the baby's head. And it should be at a certain station. And we identify that station of how far inside your vagina we feel the baby's head. Most women that are in labor, the fetal vertex should be approximately -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, +3, and then delivery occurs. So basically, a baby's vertex should be no higher than about a -2. Now, there are situations where women that have had multiple babies, the fetal vertex will be very high in your pelvis. And it can be even -3 or -4. That does not necessarily mean that those women are going to have cesarean section, but it does increase the chance that they may not descend properly, or the baby may not descend properly. So -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, +3, and then delivery. So your fetal vertex should be in that range. So as you're progressing through labor, if the baby's vertex does not descend in that manner, from -2 to -1 to 0, on to +3, and then delivery, you may have what's called failure to descend. Your healthcare provider, as you go through labor, will be checking your cervix, checking the baby's vertex, and if it looks like there's never been descent or there is not going to be descent, they may talk to you about a cesarean section. So that is point number 2, failure to descend. Point number 3 is failure to dilate. Now, these are not in any specific order, so you can have failure to descend and failure to dilate, or they can be separate entities, failure to descend and failure to dilate. So failure to dilate is exactly like failure to descend. Your cervix should be changing from 1 to 2 to 3 all the way to 10, and if that fails to happen, you're not going to get to that 10 centimeter dilation and you won't deliver vaginally. So if you're trucking along 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 7 centimeters, and all of a sudden the cervix never changes beyond a certain centimeter dilation. I'm just using 7 because I like that number. So you get stuck on 7. You have adequate contraction pattern, contractions occurring every 2 to 3 minutes, good quality and good quantity, and your cervix never dilates. There's going to be a certain period of time where your healthcare provider may say you need to proceed with cesarean section. Now, it's important to understand that every healthcare provider is different as far as how long they will let you wait. Some are quick to cesarean section, others are slow to cesarean section. I personally am slow to cesarean section, so I may make you wait with your consent for multiple hours if you're, again, I'm using that 7 centimeter dilation as a kind of a point of reference here. I may make you wait multiple hours before we punt and say you're not going to progress any further. I don't want you to look back and say he didn't give me long enough time or she didn't give me a long enough time. Now, it's an interesting point here. There's a fine line where patients think the doctor didn't give me enough time or the doctor gave me too much time, and I've heard both sides of this. I've heard women say he took me back too fast to cesarean section, and I've heard women say, oh my word, he made me stay at 7 centimeters forever before he did my surgery. So it's important, again, the dialogue that needs to occur between you and your nurse and you and your healthcare provider. You as a patient are captain of your own ship. If you don't understand or you have questions about why we're stuck and not moving forward, or how long are we going to wait, or how long are you going to have me wait, those are all questions that I encourage you to communicate with as far as your information, because you don't want to look back and say they made me wait too long or they made me go too fast. Your final end hopefully is going to be vaginal delivery. Unfortunately, in America, you know this, and I've mentioned this in my cesarean section video, the cesarean section rate is 1 in 3. So it's about 33%. Now remember, I talked about abnormal labor. Most women have normal labor. Most women deliver vaginally. In my practice, it's 3 out of 4. Nationally, it's 2 out of 3. So you still have very good odds that you're going to deliver vaginally. But the bottom line for you as a patient is you have to be well informed so that you can get to the end and be happy with your vaginal delivery. Now, hear what I said? I said you can be happy with your vaginal delivery. So we're going to approach this that you're going to end up with a vaginal delivery. Unfortunately, though, I've got to talk about something that drives a lot of cesarean sections in America, and that's an abnormal fetal heart tracing. If the tracing's a little bit abnormal, that your cesarean section may be driven by the fact that your obstetrician is concerned about the legal aspect of taking care of you. Now, when you come to the hospital, you're going to be hooked to a monitor, and we're going to monitor the heart rate of the baby. That's called fetal heart rate monitoring. Now, we categorize this tracing in 3 categories. Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. Category 1 means that your baby is being adequately oxygenated and everything looks good. That's where most babies are as they travel through labor. They're Category 1 tracing. So your tracing will be evaluated by your nurse. If there's any concerns, your nurse will talk to your healthcare provider. Decisions will be made based on where that category rating is. If the fetal heart tracing goes from a category 1 to a category 2, that means your healthcare provider is looking more intently at the tracing and making sure that your baby is healthy. Most babies are healthy. Most babies have a reserve. It's kind of like diving into the water. They can stay under the water 30, 40, 50 seconds, maybe even a minute before they get into trouble. So this is kind of like diving into the water. So category 2 simply means that your baby has to be monitored closer with closer evaluation. It does not mean that you have to have a cesarean section at that point. That's what ACOG says. American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology says you do not have to have a cesarean section with a category 2 tracing. Unfortunately, if your baby goes into a category 3, that means you have to be delivered immediately. It's almost like an emergent situation. Your baby with a category 3 tracing would need to be delivered within 30 minutes. This is ACOG standard of care. Very few babies get to a category 3. It's interesting, just last weekend, I had my first category 3 tracing in several years. I quickly proceeded to cesarean section, and thankfully we had a healthy baby. Go back to that diving example I gave earlier. There's a certain point where we're all underwater, and if we don't get oxygen immediately, we're going to be in trouble. And that's what that category 3 means. So category 1, that means everything's happy. Category 2 means we got maybe a little bit of not a smiley face, but it's not a frown yet. And number 3, category 3 means you got a frown and we've got to do something immediately. So abnormal labor patterns, it drives many, many cesarean sections in the United States. And again, it's because of the legal environment many times, but medically, if your doctor is following ACOG standard of care, then you will be taken care of. I hope this was helpful. Please come see us. We want to be your birth coach. We want to help you. Have a great day.